Beloved soul, pause right here and let the atmosphere around you settle. You didn't arrive at this moment through scrolling or curiosity. Heaven aligned your steps with a precision your mind cannot grasp, and the whisper that brought you here carries the weight of eternity. Something ancient, something holy is stirring over your life, and the Spirit of God is leaning close because this is a Kairos moment crafted with your name woven into it. The longing you felt, that ache in your chest you couldn't explain, is not weariness. It is a spiritual awakening. You've stepped into a sacred intersection where destiny alignment begins to take shape, and the veil between your questions and God's answer begins to thin. Chosen one, listen carefully. For months, maybe even years, you've been sensing a shift that words could not capture, a restlessness growing beneath your ribs, a pull that doesn't come from fear but from divine purpose. This is heaven's way of signaling that your breakthrough season is not approaching. It is igniting, and the fire warming your spirit is the same fire God once used to guide his people through wilderness nights. Isaiah 43:19 echoes over you even now. Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. You are standing in the first glow of that new thing, even if your natural eyes aren't aware of it yet. You've carried questions about your path, your identity, your calling, and the quiet battles you've endured alone. Yet heaven has never been silent. Every pressing moment, every closed door, every tear you tucked away has been seen, counted, and recorded. You've been shaped in hidden places so you can rise in appointed ones. This message today is not random encouragement. It is a divine convergence. God is speaking with clarity, pulling you out of confusion and planting strength where doubt once lived. Your steps are shifting from survival into elevation, from endurance into abundance, from wandering into intentional personal transformation. Hear this. The financial strain you've been navigating has not been punishment. It has been training. God has been forging a wealth mindset rooted not in fear, but in faith, not in scarcity, but in kingdom provision. The emotional healing you've been walking through has not been weakness. It has been preparation, making room within you so that what God is about to release will not crush you, but crown you. Beloved, take a slow breath. God is drawing you into a deeper truth. His voice is not in the chaos around you, but in the stillness settling over you right now. You are stepping into a season where heaven speaks directly, decisively, unmistakably. And if you have felt unseen, overlooked, or spiritually drained, then hear this with your whole heart. God has never been closer than he is in this moment. Stay with me, chosen one, because what unfolds next is carrying answers you have prayed for in silence. And before we continue, if your spirit is awakening to this word, if something inside you is stirring with recognition, then subscribe, like, and share this message so you remain connected to every revelation God is pouring out. Do it as an act of alignment, a way of saying, Lord, I'm listening. Keep speaking. Chosen one, listen closely, because what has been shaking your life lately is not disorder. It is divine order, rearranging everything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. The tension in your chest, the silence in certain relationships, the heaviness that settles over you at night. It is not a sign of collapse. It is the unmistakable signal that heaven is shifting the architecture of your destiny. What you've been walking through is part of a breakthrough season wrapped in disguise, a sacred recalibration meant to elevate you into a deeper dimension of purpose. The pressure that has been building around you isn't proof of abandonment. It's proof of acceleration. God is preparing you for a spiritual awakening that requires both strength and clarity. And he has been stripping away every distraction so your spirit can finally hear what he has been whispering. Beloved soul, there is a reason your heart has outgrown the spaces that once felt comfortable. You've been sensing it, an internal stretching, an ache that doesn't come from sadness but from transformation. Your spirit is expanding because your calling is expanding. The Holy Spirit has been hovering over you, stirring the waters of your inner world so that the old patterns loosen their grip. Even the emotional wounds you've been healing from are not signs of weakness. They are signs that God refuses to let you carry old pain into a new season. Emotional healing is unfolding in you not as a slow recovery, but as a supernatural cleansing to prepare you for abundance. This is why your desires have changed, why your tolerance for nonsense has dropped, why your discernment has sharpened. Heaven is aligning your inner world before it reveals your outer breakthrough. Chosen one, think about the moments you've woken up with a strange clarity you couldn't explain. The mornings when you felt pulled to pray without knowing why. These are not coincidences. These are divine nudges calling you into destiny alignment. God has been preparing you for something that cannot be built on the fragile foundations of who you used to be. Your identity is being refined like silver in fire, melted and reshaped for a purpose that is greater than anything you've stepped into before. And if you've wondered why familiar doors have closed, why longtime friends have drifted, why opportunities you thought were yours suddenly vanished, understand this: heaven will never let you settle where you were only meant to pass through. Some doors shut because they were beneath your calling. Some people left because their assignment in your story had reached completion. God is making room for divine connections that match the elevation He is releasing over your life. Beloved, you've noticed the signs. You've seen repeating numbers at strange moments. You've felt chills mid-prayer. Your dreams have become more vivid, more symbolic. This isn't randomness. This is heaven speaking in patterns because the next chapter of your life must be seen with spiritual eyes. The number 7 you keep noticing is not just a number. It is a reminder that completion is unfolding around you. Old cycles are breaking. Old warfare is lifting. You're stepping into a space where the weight you've carried is exchanged for clarity, power, and blessing. This is why God has been pruning your circle, your habits, even your ambitions. He's making space for abundance to take root. Not abundance measured in material wealth alone, but an abundance of peace, of purpose, of insight, of spiritual authority. And I need you to hear this part with your whole heart. None of what you've lost was a mistake. None of it. The relationships, the seasons, the opportunities, they were not stolen from you. They were removed so they could not sabotage what heaven is orchestrating. God has not been reducing you. He has been refining you. You may feel like you've been walking through a wilderness, but even in that wilderness, there has been a divine purpose shaping your steps. Just as God led Abraham away from everything familiar, He is guiding you into territory where your gifts will flourish, where your voice will carry weight, where your destiny can unfold without hindrance. You are not wandering, you are being escorted. Chosen one, there is a depth opening beneath your feet, a quiet unveiling of truths that were once hidden beneath layers of survival. You've been sensing it without knowing how to name it, a shift in your spirit that feels like standing on the threshold of something vast. This is not imagination. It is the unfolding of a divine blueprint written for you long before any storm tried to shake your confidence. You are stepping into a realm where clarity replaces confusion, where inner strength rises without being summoned, where your discernment sharpens as if heaven itself is training your vision. God has been dismantling old foundations so He can establish a stronger one within you, one that can carry the weight of the purpose you've been chosen to walk in. And the more you lean into this transformation, the more obvious it becomes that the previous season was not a delay. It was preparation for a kind of elevation that demands spiritual maturity. Beloved soul, notice how your heart has been craving silence lately. as if your spirit no longer tolerates the noise that once entertained you. There is a sanctity forming inside you, a divine stillness urging you to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you react, to trust more than you question. This isn't withdrawal, it's refinement. You're being taught to hear God in the subtleties, in the pauses between thoughts, in the gentle tug that redirects your steps. Every moment of solitude has been a classroom. Every wave of restlessness has been a signal. Every internal shift has been heaven training you to move from reaction to revelation. This is why your desires are changing. This is why you've been losing interest in what once fascinated you. Your spirit is rising into alignment with a greater calling, one that requires a renewed inner world. Chosen one, God has been strengthening you in ways you haven't even recognized. Look at how you've survived storms that would have shattered a lesser soul. Look at how you've fought through emotional droughts, seasons of uncertainty, and moments when you felt invisible. Yet something within you kept burning. That flame didn't come from human strength. It came from divine resilience planted in you for the journey ahead. You're being forged into someone who can carry revelation without trembling, someone who can walk into destiny without hesitation, someone who can recognize the difference between what is good and what is God. Heaven is elevating your discernment because what's coming requires clarity, not confusion. And the more God prepares you, the more you'll notice that the wrong voices fall silent, while the right ones emerge like beacons. Beloved, you've wondered why certain doors have remained shut, no matter how sincerely you knocked. But hidden protection has been surrounding you even when you didn't ask for it. Some opportunities were withheld, not because you were unworthy, but because they were misaligned with your divine purpose. God has been shielding you from counterfeit paths, from connections that would drain your spirit, from environments that would dim your light. And though you did not see the danger, heaven did. Every closed door has been an act of mercy. Every unavailable opportunity has been a redirection toward the path shaped specifically for your destiny. This is why the pace of your journey may have felt slow. God was navigating you around distractions, around temptations, around spiritual detours disguised as blessings. He's positioning you for the kind of abundance that doesn't collapse under pressure. Chosen one, something sacred has been awakening in your inner world. A new appetite for truth, a deeper hunger for spiritual wisdom, a stronger pull toward the voice of God. This awakening didn't begin in a dramatic moment. It began quietly, through discomfort, through confusion, through the subtle unraveling of what no longer served you. And now, that awakening has become unmistakable. You've been feeling the gentle weight of divine purpose, the quiet insistence that there is more to your life than what you've seen. Your destiny is calling you with a clarity that grows stronger each day. Even the challenges surrounding you are being used as stepping stones, shaping you into someone who carries spiritual authority without arrogance, humility without self-doubt, courage without recklessness. Beloved soul, look closely at what has been rising in your dreams, the symbols, the patterns, the places that seem unfamiliar yet strangely comforting. These aren't random images, they are spiritual markers. Heaven speaks in pictures when words are too small to carry the message. And your dreams have become a canvas where God paints glimpses of what's coming. You've seen light where there should have been darkness. You've seen movement where your life has felt still. You've seen yourself stronger, more confident, more aligned than you feel today. These visions are not fantasies. They are previews of a destiny that's closer than you realize. And as you continue to walk in obedience, those dreams will merge with your reality, one moment at a time. Chosen one, there is something profound unfolding in the unseen, something that has been shaping your atmosphere without announcing itself. You felt it in the small shifts, the way certain conversations suddenly felt shallow, the way old fears no longer held the same power, the way your spirit began rejecting what once felt comfortable. These changes aren't random. They are the markers of a soul being prepared for greater responsibility. Heaven has been enlarging your inner capacity so you can hold the weight of what's coming without collapsing under it. You are being fashioned into someone who can discern spiritual currents with clarity. Someone who recognizes divine timing with precision. Someone who moves not by impulse, but by revelation. The process may have been subtle, but its impact is undeniable. Your spirit has been stretching to fit the magnitude of your calling. Beloved soul, consider how your inner voice has grown wiser. There was a time when uncertainty made you hesitate, when doubt clouded your decisions, when fear whispered louder than faith. But something has shifted. A deeper intuition has awakened within you, an intuition that doesn't rely on logic alone, but on divine insight. You've started sensing the motives behind words, the energy behind people, the truth behind appearances. This is spiritual maturity strengthening your discernment. God has been refining your instincts so you can navigate future assignments with confidence. And this sharpening isn't accidental. You are being prepared for environments that require spiritual sensitivity, for opportunities that carry weight, for connections that will influence your path. Heaven is crafting a version of you who can step into greater influence without losing your grounding. Chosen one, look at how your understanding of purpose has evolved. You no longer crave the validation you once sought. You no longer chase fleeting recognition or temporary approval. What your heart longs for now is alignment. Alignment with God's will, alignment with divine timing, alignment with the mission you were placed here to fulfill. This shift is evidence that your spirit is rising above old insecurities. You are realizing that your worth doesn't come from applause, but from assignment. That your value doesn't come from acceptance, but from identity. The longing within you has become more sacred, more intentional, more rooted in divine purpose. And this transformation is crucial because what God is preparing for you requires a heart free from distraction and a mind anchored in truth. Beloved, there have been moments when you've wondered why your emotions have been on edge, why certain days felt unusually heavy, why silence suddenly carried weight. These experiences weren't emotional instability, they were spiritual sensitivity awakening inside you. You're becoming more attuned to the shifts happening around you, more aware of the spiritual atmosphere, more connected to the movements of heaven. This sensitivity isn't a burden, it's a gift. A sign that you are being positioned to hear God in ways others overlook. A sign that your role in the kingdom requires deeper awareness. And as your spirit continues to awaken, you'll begin noticing patterns you once ignored, opportunities you once missed, messages you once doubted. Heaven is drawing your attention to what truly matters. Chosen one, there have been changes even in the way you carry yourself, the way you enter a room, the way you speak, the way you process pain. Without realizing it, you've been shedding old versions of yourself like garments that no longer fit. You've been rising into a steadier posture, one built on resilience rather than reaction, on wisdom rather than impulse, on purpose rather than pressure. Heaven has been chiseling away the remnants of fear so the strength beneath can emerge. This is why you've been feeling more grounded lately, even in uncertainty. You're stepping into emotional stability, rooted not in circumstance, but in divine assurance. And as this strength continues to grow, you'll find yourself making decisions with confidence that surprises even you. Beloved soul, listen to what your spirit has been trying to tell you. The uneasiness you've felt is not a warning of danger, but a signal of transition. You're standing at the edge of a new phase, and your soul knows it even before your mind catches up. This is why nothing from your old season feels familiar anymore. This is why certain places feel too small, certain conversations feel too limiting, certain environments feel too restricting. Your assignment is changing, and your spirit has already begun to detach from what can no longer carry your destiny. Heaven is drawing you forward, preparing you for doors you haven't seen yet, opportunities you haven't imagined, and encounters that will redefine your trajectory. Chosen one, pay attention to the way divine timing has been weaving itself into your days. There have been moments recently when situations aligned with unusual precision, when conversations happened at the exact moment you needed clarity, when doors opened without effort and others closed before you could take a step. These patterns are not coincidences. They are signals. Heaven has been orchestrating a sequence of events designed to reposition you, not by force, but by guidance. The synchronicities you've noticed are confirmations that your steps are being ordered with intention. God is arranging encounters, redirecting paths, and shaping outcomes long before they reach your awareness. And as these alignments increase, your spirit is learning to trust without demanding explanations, to move when prompted, to pause when unsettled, to follow the quiet pull of divine instruction with confidence. Beloved soul, consider how your capacity for endurance has expanded. The challenges you once felt unprepared for no longer intimidate you the same way. You've weathered emotional storms that would have overwhelmed you in past seasons, yet now you stand calmer, more centered, more spiritually grounded. This strength was not built in moments of ease. It was forged through struggle, through late nights when prayers felt unanswered, through days when hope flickered but never died. Every hardship has contributed to this resilience, carving out a deeper foundation within you. You are being shaped into someone who can carry heavy spiritual assignments, someone who can stand firm in seasons of testing, someone whose faith doesn't shake at the first sign of pressure. Heaven has been preparing you for a role that requires unwavering strength, and the evidence of that preparation is visible in the way you now face what once frightened you. Chosen one, notice how the atmosphere around you has been shifting, not in dramatic declarations, but in subtle transitions. Conversations have taken on new tones. Certain relationships feel lighter, while others feel weighed down with unspoken distance. Environments that once felt familiar now feel foreign. These shifts are part of a spiritual recalibration meant to elevate you into new territories. You're being separated from what cannot follow you forward, not through conflict, but through quiet divergence. God is removing distractions with gentle precision, guiding your heart toward people and places where your calling will flourish. This thinning of your circle is not loss. It is refinement. It is heaven drawing boundaries around your spirit so you can grow without interference, align without confusion, and rise without resistance. Beloved, there is a newfound boldness rising within you, one that doesn't announce itself loudly, but reveals itself in your decisions. You've begun choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, purpose over passivity. You've started walking away from situations that undermine your growth, stepping out of cycles that drained your strength, releasing people who were anchored to your past instead of your future. This courage didn't appear suddenly. It grew from the deep knowing that your destiny requires intentional choices. God has been stirring a holy confidence in your spirit, teaching you to trust your discernment, to honor your boundaries, to protect your energy. You're learning that obedience sometimes looks like letting go, sometimes like stepping forward, sometimes like standing still, and each act of obedience becomes a seed that heaven waters. Chosen one, reflect on the clarity that's been coming to you in still moments. Thoughts that once felt tangled now unravel themselves with ease. Situations that seemed complicated suddenly make sense with a single insight. You're beginning to understand patterns that once confused you, to recognize cycles that repeated unnoticed, to see connections that reveal deeper truths. This clarity is not intellectual. It is spiritual. It is the Holy Spirit illuminating corners of your life that were once shadowed by doubt or fear. You're being shown what to release, what to embrace, what to rebuild. Heaven is giving you sight beyond the surface, insight beyond reason, understanding beyond experience. And as this clarity deepens, your decisions will become more precise, your path more defined, your journey more purposeful. Beloved soul, something powerful is stirring beneath the surface of your daily life. You've been feeling an inner pull toward growth, a yearning that doesn't come from ambition, but from destiny. It's as if your spirit knows there is more waiting for you, calling you, urging you to rise higher. This inner pull is the prompting of heaven, nudging you toward opportunities that require faith, toward responsibilities that mirror your purpose, toward environments where your voice carries weight. You're not being pushed, you're being invited. And as you continue to follow that inner prompting, you'll find yourself stepping into rooms that feel predestined, connections that feel orchestrated, and moments that feel like stepping stones laid by unseen hands. Chosen one, there is a stirring inside you that has been growing louder with each passing day, a pull that feels less like curiosity and more like an awakening. You've begun noticing how your heart leans toward things that nourish your spirit rather than entertain your mind, how your soul gravitates toward conversations that carry depth instead of distraction. This shift is a sign that heaven has begun expanding your spiritual appetite. Where surface-level living once felt sufficient, now you crave substance, truth, and alignment. This hunger didn't appear by accident. It was placed in you to prepare you for revelations that cannot be received with a cluttered heart. God is clearing space within you, making room for insights that will guide your next season with precision and power. Insights that can only rest in a spirit ready to receive. Beloved soul, pay attention to the way your patience has stretched farther than before. You've endured delays without collapsing into frustration, processed uncertainty without losing your grounding, and waited for clarity without forcing outcomes. This shift in patience isn't passivity, it's spiritual discipline. Heaven has been teaching you to trust the process, to move in rhythm with divine timing rather than against it. Your spirit is learning to breathe in sync with God's pace, recognizing that premature movement can sabotage destiny just as much as stagnation. This new patience is strengthening your foundation, making you steady enough to hold blessings that require maturity, consistency, and faith anchored in wisdom rather than urgency. Chosen one, notice the subtle but powerful transformation in your inner dialogue. Where you once questioned your worth, now you challenge the lies that tried to belittle you. Where you once accepted discouragement, now you confront it with truth. Where you once internalized rejection, now you recognize it as protection. This shift didn't come from self-confidence alone. It came from spiritual alignment. God has been reshaping the way you speak to yourself, so you can carry a mindset capable of holding abundance. You are being trained to embrace a wealth mindset, not rooted in possessions, but in identity. Not in material gain, but in spiritual authority. This renewed inner language is preparing you to step into environments where your confidence must match your calling, where your voice must echo with conviction, where your presence must carry the weight of divine purpose. Beloved, there have been moments when your spirit felt strangely charged, as if the atmosphere around you thickened with significance. These weren't random sensations. They were spiritual alerts. You've walked into rooms where the air felt different, where your intuition heightened, where you sensed the hidden intentions of others without a single word spoken. These experiences are signs that your discernment has entered a new dimension. God is training you to sense spiritual currents that eyes cannot see. This level of awareness is a divine gift, one reserved for those carrying assignments that influence others. You're being prepared to move with greater sensitivity, to recognize divine opportunities disguised in ordinary moments, to perceive spiritual shifts before they manifest in the natural. This ability is not to overwhelm you, but to prepare you to lead, protect, and intercede with greater authority. Chosen one, Consider how your relationship with fear has changed. What once immobilized you now barely slows you down. What once silenced you now motivates you to rise. Fear hasn't disappeared, but its influence has weakened. This is because your spirit has begun anchoring itself in truth instead of emotion. You've started recognizing fear as a shadow, not a force, a distraction, not a direction. And as you've confronted it, something powerful has awakened inside you. Courage. Not the loud, roaring kind, but the steady, unshakable strength that comes from knowing heaven walks with you. This courage is essential for the season you're stepping into. It will allow you to take bold steps when logic says retreat, to trust God's leading when clarity is incomplete, to stand firm when the ground feels unfamiliar. Beloved soul, there is a new layer of identity being revealed within you. You've begun realizing that you are not defined by your past, not confined by your mistakes, not limited by your old seasons. Your identity is unfolding like a scroll written in heaven, revealing truths your spirit always knew but your mind is only now beginning to grasp. You're stepping into a deeper understanding of who God crafted you to be. Intentional, purposeful, anointed. This revelation is changing the way you perceive your future, shifting your perspective from survival to assignment, from doubt to destiny, from wandering to alignment. Every day, your spirit rises a little higher, your insight grows a little sharper, your purpose becomes a little clearer. Chosen one, there is a quiet certainty forming inside you, a knowing that doesn't shout but settles into your bones with unusual steadiness. You've started recognizing that some of the desires stirring within you are not random impulses, but divine invitations. There is a difference between wanting something and being summoned toward it, and your spirit has begun discerning that distinction. The dreams rising in your heart hold a different weight now. They feel purposeful, anchored, almost ancient, as if they were planted in you long before you ever had the language to articulate them. Heaven is awakening these long dormant desires because the time for them to unfold is drawing near. And as they rise, you'll notice that your confidence grows alongside them, not because the path is clear, but because your spirit recognizes these desires as part of your destiny. Beloved soul, observe how your perspective on challenges has been shifting. Where obstacles once felt like walls, now they appear more like thresholds. Where setbacks once discouraged you, now they spark reflection rather than defeat. This shift reveals that your spirit has begun interpreting life through a higher lens. You're no longer viewing difficulties as punishments, but as catalysts, as moments designed to refine you, stretch you, and prepare you for elevation. This kind of maturity can only be birthed through experience and grace. God has been teaching you to navigate adversity without absorbing it, to walk through uncertainty without losing yourself, to face resistance with wisdom rather than fear. Each challenge you've encountered has been turning you into someone who carries spiritual authority with humility, someone who can stand in turbulent seasons without being swept away. Chosen one, look at how your sense of direction has been sharpening. You've begun identifying the subtle nudges that guide you away from distractions and toward alignment, the gentle pull that leads you into conversations or decisions that hold purpose. There is new clarity rising within you, a clarity that doesn't depend on external signs but grows from inner conviction. This inner compass is being crafted by heaven itself. God is tuning your discernment to recognize what resonates with your calling and what contradicts it. And as you respond to these inner signals, you'll find your path straightening, your choices simplifying, your steps becoming more intentional. This clarity will guide you into spaces where your gifts are not merely welcomed but needed, where your presence carries impact, where your voice unlocks what has been dormant in others. Beloved, notice how time has felt different lately. Days that once blended into each other now carry distinct meaning. Moments you would have overlooked now feel charged with significance. This heightened awareness is not coincidence. It is spiritual sensitivity attuning itself to divine timing. You've started to sense when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain still, when to release and when to hold on. This rhythm is heaven training you to flow with purpose rather than pushing against it. God is teaching you that timing is not about speed, but alignment, not about urgency, but readiness. And the more you yield to this rhythm, the more you'll notice that opportunities arrive precisely when your spirit is prepared to receive them. Chosen one, reflect on how your emotional boundaries have strengthened. You've become more selective with what you give your energy to, more intentional about who gains access to your spirit, more protective of the peace God has been cultivating within you. This shift isn't isolation, it's stewardship. You are learning to guard the parts of yourself that are sacred, to preserve your strength for assignments that matter, to honor your emotions without being ruled by them. Heaven is teaching you to distinguish between people who feed your purpose and those who drain it, between environments that nurture your spirit and those that suffocate it. As you continue to honor these boundaries, you'll find yourself surrounded by connections that elevate you rather than burden you, conversations that inspire you rather than deplete you, environments that amplify your calling rather than distract you from it. Beloved soul, there's a deepening happening within you, a gentle unfolding of spiritual identity that reveals layers you didn't know existed. You've begun embracing truth with a confidence that surprises even you, shedding beliefs that once limited you, releasing fears that once defined you. This unfolding is not sudden, yet it is undeniable. Day by day, heaven has been revealing who you are beneath the surface. Your authority, your resilience, your purpose, your spiritual inheritance. And with each revelation, you rise a little higher, not in arrogance, but in awareness. Awareness of who God crafted you to be. Awareness of the destiny written over your life. Awareness of the calling that has been echoing through your spirit since the moment you took your first breath. Chosen one, there is a quiet reordering taking place in the depths of your spirit, a rearranging of beliefs, priorities, and inner structures that once defined you. You've begun noticing how certain patterns no longer hold authority over your mind, how old narratives dissolve the moment you try to revisit them, how thoughts that once carried weight now fade before they fully form. This internal shift is evidence that heaven has been rewriting the script of your identity. Where shame once lingered, conviction now rises. Where doubt once whispered, assurance now speaks. Where confusion once brought fog, clarity now spreads like dawn. This transformation is subtle yet unstoppable, like the strengthening of roots beneath soil. You are being rebuilt from the inside out, prepared to carry revelations that require stability, purity of intention, and a renewed understanding of who you truly are in the eyes of God. Beloved soul, consider the way your relationship with stillness has changed. There was a time when silence felt heavy, when quiet moments made your thoughts too loud, when rest felt unproductive. But now, stillness has become sanctuary. Your heart no longer resists the pauses in your journey because it recognizes that heaven often speaks in whispers, not noise. In moments of stillness, your spirit has begun to recognize divine patterns, catching glimpses of direction, insight, and reassurance that only rise when the world fades into the background. This new reverence for stillness is a sign of spiritual maturity. God is preparing you for a season where your greatest breakthroughs won't come from striving, but from listening, from receiving, from allowing heaven to reveal what action alone could never achieve. Chosen one, reflect on the way your spirit has outgrown the expectations others placed on you. You no longer shrink to fit old molds. You no longer feel obligated to play roles that suffocate your calling. You've begun reclaiming parts of yourself that you once hid for the sake of keeping peace. This reclamation is sacred. Heaven has been nudging you to step beyond the limitations imposed by others, urging you to embrace the fullness of your identity without apology. As this unfolding continues, you'll notice that your confidence becomes anchored not in external validation, but in divine affirmation. You're learning to walk in a purpose that cannot be negotiated, diluted, or postponed. This rising self-awareness isn't rebellion, it's revelation. Beloved, observe how your emotional landscape has been shifting into deeper stability. The storms that once sent you spiraling now barely disrupt your grounding. You've learned to breathe through uncertainty, to trust through disappointment, to remain steady even when circumstances shake around you. This emotional resilience is not accidental. It is the product of every season where you chose faith over fear, where you clung to hope even when the evidence was thin, where you kept praying despite the silence. Heaven has been cultivating strength within you that can withstand spiritual warfare, relational tension, and internal battles without losing its equilibrium. You are becoming someone who responds rather than reacts. Someone whose peace isn't fragile but fortified. Someone who navigates adversity with wisdom rather than worry. Chosen one, look at how your perception of relationships has matured. You no longer chase proximity. You no longer confuse connection with destiny. You've learned to discern the difference between those who support your growth and those who resist it, between those who celebrate your elevation and those who fear it, between those assigned to your journey and those assigned to your lesson. This discernment is creating space for divine connections to enter your life. People who carry insight, integrity, and purpose. People who challenge you in ways that refine you. People who uplift your spirit rather than pull it downward. Heaven is orchestrating alignments that mirror your calling. Relationships built not on convenience, but on covenant. Not on comfort, but on purpose. Beloved soul, there is a rising clarity in your sense of mission, a gradual unveiling of the deeper reason you are placed on this earth. You've noticed that certain responsibilities no longer resonate the way they once did, while new interests, new ideas, new visions begin to pull at your spirit with increasing intensity. These shifts are not distractions, they are directions. God is awakening gifts that were dormant, activating strengths you didn't know you carried, drawing you toward paths you never expected to walk. This is part of your spiritual evolution, a guided emergence into the fullness of your destiny. You are being shaped into someone who influences atmospheres, who carries healing in their words, who walks with purpose that echoes far beyond the moment. Chosen one, there is a new awareness rising within you, an inner expansion that feels less like learning and more like remembering. It's as though truths you never studied are suddenly familiar, as though wisdom you never pursued is awakening from a hidden place within your spirit. This isn't imagination. It is divine intelligence resurfacing. Heaven is unlocking layers of understanding that were reserved for a season when your heart could hold them without fear, when your spirit could embrace them without hesitation. This awakening is why you've been drawn to deeper conversations, why your spirit reacts strongly to environments that lack authenticity, why your mind seeks meaning in moments that others overlook. You're being invited into a higher dimension of awareness, one where your insight becomes a tool of discernment, where your intuition becomes a compass, where your spirit becomes a vessel for revelation. Beloved soul, notice how your priorities have been quietly shifting into alignment. What once felt urgent now feels trivial. What once drained your energy now feels unworthy of your attention. You're becoming more selective with your time, more intentional with your choices, more protective of your inner world. This refinement isn't driven by pride, it's driven by purpose. Heaven is teaching you to invest your energy where it multiplies instead of where it leaks, to plant your focus in places that honor your growth, to pour your essence into what elevates your spirit. rather than what weighs it down. You're learning that not everything deserves access to your attention. Not every voice deserves entry into your thoughts. Not every opportunity deserves a place in your hands. This sacred selectiveness is part of your elevation, shaping you into someone who stewards purpose with wisdom and honor. Chosen one, reflect on how your resilience has taken on a new form, not the kind that merely survives, but the kind that transforms. You no longer endure hardship the way you once did. Now, every challenge becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes a turning point. Every closed door becomes a message. You are being taught to decode life through a lens of spiritual maturity, to extract meaning from moments that once overwhelmed you, to rise stronger from situations designed to break you. This evolution is evidence that heaven has strengthened your inner structure, fortifying your ability to withstand spiritual turbulence while remaining anchored in truth. Your resilience is no longer reactive. It is intentional. It moves with grace, speaks with discernment, and adapts with wisdom. Beloved, pay attention to the increasing sensitivity of your spirit. You've begun sensing shifts before they happen, feeling spiritual pressure before it manifests, noticing emotional changes in others without them speaking a word. This isn't overthinking. It's spiritual radar. God is heightening your sensitivity so you can navigate environments with insight rather than confusion, so you can recognize hidden motives without confrontation, so you can identify divine opportunities without hesitation. This elevated awareness is a gift that comes with responsibility. You are being prepared to lead, to guide, to influence people whose lives will shift because of your presence. And heaven is ensuring that you enter these roles fully equipped, not with titles or accolades, but with wisdom, discernment, and spiritual clarity. Chosen one, consider the way your vision for the future has been expanding. Ideas that once felt too large now feel attainable. Dreams that once intimidated you now stir excitement instead of fear. God has been stretching your imagination, lifting the ceiling of what you believe is possible, enlarging the territory of your faith. You are stepping into a mindset of abundance, not rooted in materialism, but in divine capacity. You're beginning to see life not from the lens of limitation, but from the perspective of destiny. This shift is essential because what heaven is preparing to release over your life cannot fit into the small expectations you once carried. Your heart is learning to embrace expansion. Your spirit is learning to expect elevation. Your mind is learning to welcome breakthrough. Beloved soul, something extraordinary is happening within your emotional world. You've started accessing depths of compassion, strength, and empathy that were once out of reach. You're noticing how easily you can sense the unspoken pain in others, how naturally your presence brings calm to situations filled with tension, how instinctively your words hold healing. These shifts are not personality changes. They are spiritual activations. You are being prepared to carry emotional healing to people who are silently drowning, to environments that crave stability, to hearts that need guidance. Heaven is cultivating your emotional intelligence as part of your divine purpose, shaping you into someone who uplifts without effort, restores without pressure, and strengthens without force. Chosen one, there is a refinement happening in the way you respond to life. A softening and strengthening occurring at the same time, shaping you into someone who carries peace even when the world around you trembles. You've noticed it, how your reactions have slowed, how your clarity rises before your frustration, how your spirit steadies itself even as circumstances attempt to pull you off balance. This is not emotional suppression, it is spiritual evolution. Heaven has been teaching you to anchor your responses in truth rather than impulse, to meet turbulence with discernment rather than fear, to navigate pressure with wisdom rather than panic. You're becoming someone who interprets challenges through a higher lens, someone who sees beyond surface chaos and recognizes the divine orchestration at work beneath it. This new stability is evidence that God has been preparing you for responsibilities that require composure, patience, and spiritual authority. Beloved soul, observe how a new confidence has been awakening in you, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that stands. It's the quiet confidence that appears when you recognize your own growth, when you see yourself rising from wounds that once defined you, when you realize that the strength you carry now was forged through seasons you thought would break you. This confidence is not arrogance. It is awareness. Awareness of who walks with you. Awareness of how far you've come. Awareness of the purpose pulling you forward. You're beginning to hold your head a little higher, not out of pride, but because your spirit knows it is stepping into alignment with heaven's design. This inner rising will continue to grow, shaping you into someone who moves with intention, speaks with conviction, and walks with the assurance of divine backing. Chosen one, reflect on how your inner cravings have been transforming. You no longer chase what once glittered. You no longer pursue what once distracted you. Instead, your soul reaches for depth. Depth in relationships, in purpose, in conversation, in connection with God. This shift marks the end of superficial living. You're being pulled into a deeper dimension of existence, one where meaning matters more than momentum, where authenticity matters more than approval, where fulfillment matters more than familiarity. Heaven is expanding your appetite for truth, for revelation, for purpose-driven living. And as this hunger grows, you'll notice that empty pursuits lose their appeal, shallow interactions drain you faster, and meaningless routines feel too small for the person you are becoming. Beloved, pay attention to the way your creativity has awakened. Ideas that once felt distant now flow with ease. Inspiration rises without effort, like a river that has finally found its opening. This creativity is not random, it is a spiritual activation. God is stirring gifts within you that were lying dormant, gifts that will play a significant role in the next chapter of your life. Your imagination is being reawakened because heaven is preparing to use it as a tool of influence, innovation, and impact. What you create in this season will not be ordinary. It will carry divine fingerprints, touching hearts, shifting atmospheres, awakening hope. As this creative energy builds, you'll discover new abilities, new passions, new visions that feel strangely familiar, as though they were always a part of you, waiting to be released. Chosen one, notice how your endurance has deepened into something sacred. You've walked through battles that left scars, yet those scars now feel like symbols of survival rather than reminders of pain. You've endured emotional storms that stripped you bare, yet those very storms taught you resilience, empathy, and insight you could never have gained otherwise. Your endurance has evolved into wisdom, wisdom that speaks softly but carries weight, wisdom that emerges not from books but from lived experience, wisdom that positions you to guide others with compassion and clarity. Heaven has been shaping you into someone who can walk with others through the darkness because you've learned how to find light within your own. This endurance is not merely survival. It is preparation for a purpose that requires both strength and tenderness. Beloved soul, there is a sacred alignment unfolding in your life, a weaving together of threads that once seemed disconnected. Situations that puzzled you now begin to make sense. Encounters that felt insignificant now reveal purpose. Paths that once felt uncertain now show direction. You're beginning to see how every chapter has been building towards something greater, how every season contributed to the person you are becoming, how every moment, joyful or painful, was part of a divine design. This awareness is rising within you like a dawn, illuminating what was once hidden in shadow. You're not just evolving, you're awakening to the truth that your life has been guided, protected, and shaped with intentional care. And as this awareness continues to expand, Your spirit will step even more boldly into the calling that has been waiting for you all along. Chosen one, there is a profound shift happening in the way you perceive your own journey, a subtle awakening to the truth that nothing in your life has been random. You've begun realizing that even the moments you once labeled as setbacks were actually divine setups, strategically placed to refine your vision, strengthen your spirit, and shape your character. This realization is not born from nostalgia, but from revelation. Heaven is allowing you to see patterns you once overlooked, to recognize purpose in places you once resented, to acknowledge growth in seasons you once prayed to escape. This new perspective is expanding your capacity for gratitude, not for what you have gained, but for who you have become. And as this understanding deepens, you'll find yourself walking with a steadier stride, aware that every moment has been woven with intention. Beloved soul, pay attention to how your intuition has been gaining authority within you. You've started trusting the quiet warnings that rise in your chest, the gentle urges that guide your decisions, the subtle discomfort that appears when something is misaligned. This heightened intuition is not a fleeting feeling. It is spiritual intelligence maturing within you. God is sharpening your inner knowing so you can navigate complexities with discernment, recognize the truth behind polished words, and sense the spiritual temperature of environments before stepping fully into them. This upgrade in perception is preparing you for assignments that require wisdom beyond experience and clarity beyond logic. As you continue to trust these inner promptings, you'll move with precision, stepping into what is meant for you and stepping away from what seeks to distract you. Chosen one, notice how your capacity to release has grown. You've learned to let go of things that once clung tightly to your spirit, old expectations, past disappointments, relationships that drained your strength, opportunities that did not honor your growth. This release is not loss, it is liberation. Heaven has been teaching you that holding on to what has expired only delays what is ordained. Your willingness to let go has created space within you, space for new assignments, new connections, new blessings to enter without resistance. And in this spaciousness, your spirit has found room to breathe, to heal, to realign with purpose. You are discovering the freedom that comes from trusting God enough to loosen your grip and allow divine timing to place what truly belongs to you into your hands. Beloved, observe how your inner voice has become more compassionate. You no longer speak to yourself through the lens of past wounds. Instead, you respond to your own emotions with gentleness, patience, and honesty. This shift reflects a healing that has taken root deeper than you realized. God has been restoring your self-perception, lifting the weight of old judgments, and teaching you to see yourself through the clarity of His love rather than the distortion of past experiences. As this compassion grows, you'll find it easier to forgive yourself for old mistakes, to celebrate progress instead of perfection, to honor your own journey without comparison. This renewed relationship with yourself will strengthen you for seasons that require emotional resilience, spiritual courage, and unwavering confidence. Chosen one, there is an unfolding boldness in the way you approach your dreams. Ideas you once dismissed now draw your attention. Visions that once intimidated you now stir anticipation. You've begun realizing that the dreams placed in your heart are not incidental. They are invitations to step into a higher version of yourself, to embrace responsibilities you once felt unqualified for, to walk paths your spirit has long recognized, but your mind resisted. This boldness is not ego, it is spiritual awakening. Heaven is igniting a fire within you, urging you to pursue what aligns with your purpose, reminding you that fear is not a barrier, but a threshold. The courage rising within you is evidence that God is preparing you for opportunities that require faith-driven action and a heart ready to expand beyond familiar limits. Beloved soul, reflect on how your sensitivity to God's presence has deepened. You've begun noticing divine whispers in ordinary moments, feeling waves of peace in situations that once caused anxiety, sensing comfort even without tangible reassurance. This sensitivity is not emotional, it is spiritual sync. God has been tuning your heart like an instrument, teaching you to recognize His voice in subtle ways, to feel His guidance without needing signs, to trust His nearness even when your circumstances seem silent. As this sensitivity grows, your steps will become more aligned, your decisions more inspired, your spirit more anchored in divine truth. You are entering a season where heaven will speak more clearly, not because God is speaking louder, but because your spirit has learned how to listen. Chosen one, there is an unveiling happening in the layers of your identity, a gentle but undeniable emergence of strength you didn't know you possessed. You've begun realizing that the parts of you which once felt fragile have transformed into sources of quiet authority. The hesitations that used to hold you back no longer silence your steps, and the insecurities that once clouded your mind now dissolve under the weight of truth rising within you. This kind of inner transformation cannot be forced. It can only be birthed through seasons where God rewrites the way you see yourself. He has been revealing the difference between who you were taught to be and who you were created to be, peeling back the false narratives until only authenticity remains. And as this authentic self takes shape, your spirit begins to stand taller, rooted not in pride, but in divine certainty. Beloved soul, notice how your relationship with boundaries has matured into something sacred. You no longer apologize for protecting your peace or preserving your energy. You no longer feel obligated to carry emotional burdens that don't belong to you. There is wisdom now in the way you step back from what distorts your clarity, how you withdraw from environments that don't honor your growth, how you recognize when someone's presence disrupts your spirit instead of nurturing it. This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. Heaven has been teaching you to guard the garden of your soul from anything that threatens its harmony. And as you uphold these boundaries with grace and conviction, you'll find that your spirit feels lighter, your mind clearer, and your heart more open to connections aligned with God's purpose for your life. Chosen one, observe the way new levels of responsibility have begun calling your name, not through pressure, but through purpose. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now feel achievable. Dreams that once seemed distant now appear within reach. God has been enlarging your capacity quietly, stretching your endurance, deepening your insight, and broadening your understanding without announcing it. This is why you've been sensing a readiness that you can't fully explain, a strength that surprises you in moments of challenge, a calm that anchors you even in the midst of uncertainty. You are being prepared for assignments that will require spiritual maturity, emotional intelligence, and unwavering faith. And with each internal shift, heaven is positioning you to influence lives, environments, and situations with the grace and authority you've been cultivating in silence. Beloved, reflect on how your connection to truth has evolved. There was a time when you struggled to recognize what was genuine, when illusions disguised themselves as opportunities, when people spoke with sincerity but acted with contradiction. Yet now, your spirit sees deeper. You can sense authenticity within seconds, identify deception before it unfolds, and recognize divine alignment without needing confirmation. This sharpened perception is not cynicism, it is discernment. God has been refining your spiritual vision so you can navigate your future with clarity, avoiding paths that drain your purpose and embracing those that amplify it. You've learned that truth is not always loud, but it is always consistent. And as you continue to honor truth in your decisions, heaven will continue to guide your steps with precision. Chosen one, consider how your inner healing has reached depths you once avoided. You've faced memories that once carried weight, confronted emotions you used to silence, acknowledged wounds that shaped you in ways you didn't understand. This journey has not been easy, yet it has been transformative. The walls you built to protect yourself are beginning to fall, not because you no longer need safety, but because you've discovered strength that no longer requires hiding. God has been tending to the tender places of your heart, removing bitterness, soothing old pain, and releasing heaviness you thought would stay forever. And as this healing continues, you'll find yourself more open to love, more receptive to joy, more trusting of divine timing, because your heart is no longer bracing for hurt. Beloved soul, there is a sacred awakening happening in the way you interpret silence. What once felt like absence now feels like preparation. What once felt like emptiness now feels like space for revelation. You've begun discovering that silence is not God turning away from you. It's God drawing you deeper into Him. In the stillness, your spirit has learned to listen beyond words, to perceive beyond sound, to receive without striving. This ability to find meaning in quiet places is a sign of spiritual maturity. Heaven is training you to hear what others overlook, to recognize divine movement in the unseen, to trust God's presence even when His voice feels soft. And as this sensitivity strengthens, your journey will be marked by a deeper peace, a sharper intuition, and a stronger connection to the purpose unfolding before you. Chosen one.